I'm John, and this is Bible Boldness, where we look really at what the Scripture says and not where most churches have, indoctrinated people to believe. People often see Jesus as weak, vacillating, and want to go along to get along, lovable, and he was lovable. Not denying that. I mean, he certainly was. He embodied love. He was the embodiment of love, but he also knew when he had to draw the line. And he also knew when he was telling his people, if you follow me, you're going to have these parameters set up for you. Jesus doesn't appear weak in the scripture. He's been softened up by different denominations who wanted to appeal to a larger scale. And that was not what Christ intended. He wanted his teachings to resonate with people, and he saw some need to change in their lives, not so they can say, "Oh, I'm fine as we are." That's one of the biggest things our country, the United States, has seen. I mean, I can't judge other countries, but churches in the United States have a tendency to want to try to embrace everybody, make sure everybody feels comfortable. And that's a serious disservice to the gospel. It's actually, committing heresy. So you look at John chapter 2, verse 15 is one of the clearest examples of Jesus's ability to be very commanding, very strong. He makes a whip, which means he took time. He grabs a rope and he makes it into a whip. He drives out the moneylenders. He tips over tables, scatters the coins, drives people out. He's probably terrifying. He's probably come across like a madman. He doesn't come across like, gee, I wish you wouldn't do this. I wish you would see this as a greater injustice. No, he doesn't say that. He demonstrates his opposition to him physically, demanding, he forces him out of the temple by his actions. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't rhetorical. It was a direct action against what he saw as a wrongdoing. And he is God, okay? Keep that in mind. God and Jesus are the same. Then in Matthew 10:34, Jesus says, I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. Okay, he's saying that you're going to have to defend yourself. He didn't see a sword wasn't in that time wasn't like a katana or anything. It was a relatively short blade. That means you get up close and personal. If you're trying to defend yourself off with wild animals, using a sword of that era, you're pretty much going to be mincemeat at that point. You're dealing with other humans. That's what a sword was meant for. Okay, so he wasn't like the soft, pacifistic type people want to put him into. Okay, um, people Jesus is making a point. Truth divides. Truth makes people take sides. Loyalties are going to be tested, and loyalties divide. People have different loyalties; are going to be divided. His mission his mission forced change. A man who warns of conflict is not afraid of conflict. He's telling your people, this is what we got to do. And then Luke 22:36 is even more direct. Sell your cloak and buy a sword. Okay, that's what I'm going earlier. When you're selling your cloak to buy a sword, it means you got to take you're knowing you're going to have to face confrontations, physical confrontations, not just like debates, not just arguments, not just dealing with people who are detractors. You're going to have to face real dangers. And if you read the Bible and you learn the book of Acts and you also look at the other stories connected to scripture, the advancement of the scripture was taking place in a very hostile world. In many areas were pretty much unguarded by the military, or they didn't have the police like we have now. So they had to fight confrontations against other humans. Okay, that can't be overlooked. Um, anyway, in Mark chapter 3, Jesus stands in a synagogue surrounded by leaders looking for a way to accuse him. And he still heals people anyway. He's there. He's not taunting them. He wants to heal these people because he has compassion. He has to confront people who would rather have these people suffer than be healed because of violation of the rules they created, the rules that they've superimposed upon everybody else, and everybody else terrified to actually question. He heals a man anyway, despite this people just staring down at him. He still deals with that. He heals that person. That person goes away healed. Um, when you look at these moments together, you see a very different Jesus in the soft version that people have now given to them by the churches that are so demoralized and so weakened. Jesus wasn't reckless. He didn't say go around doing random acts of violence, but violence, what he did had a purpose. It was purpose driven. And people got to understand that the Bible itself records it. Why would you allow a preacher or a priest tell you otherwise? Okay. Now, there are times that people are going to have arguments with tradition of men, and some things are good that man brings about, but they have to be scripturally centered. Okay. And scripturally centered means you're going to have to stand against people and you're going to have to take a side. And that's where I think, well, all of us have made compromises with the world. I have, I've gone along to get along. I regret it. And every time I haven't stood up where I had to suffer greater humility or greater um, setbacks in my life when I didn't take a stand. The biblical Jesus acted on his principles, okay? And his principles should be our principles. If you're calling yourself a Christian, another thing is you got to keep this in mind all the time. Jesus is God. Jesus and God are the same, okay? You're talking to the God of the universe. How can you argue? How can you find a way of arguing around what he states you have to do in your life? If you're following him, especially, you're taking that upon yourself. You have to follow through. Now, the biblical Jesus acted, again, acted. He acted and he wants you to act on the principles he's laid out for you. In John 18, Jesus' disciple Peter cuts the ear off of a servant and Jesus heals it. Okay. And that some shows that there was resistance in Peter, but it was misplaced. That timing was wrong. See, Jesus healed the man's ear because the timing was off. Okay. But then if you look at it, Jesus will reflect upon Jesus also said you probably buy a sword. There are times where you'd have to use the sword, and this was not that time. Another thing is too, the Bible does say those who live by the sword should die by the sword, but that doesn't mean it's automatically condemning. Sometimes you will die by the sword, even if you're acting within the accordance of Christ's teachings. You're going to die in the middle of battle. Okay, not just a figurative battle or spiritual battle, but an actual battle. And if you reflect upon the history of Christianity, many people, decent Christian people, died in the midst of a battle, and it doesn't take away their salvation. There are times Christianity is a very hard. You can't sum it up in just one or two phrases. Okay, you can't. It's always there's always be conflict. There's always be conflict. I mean, he could have called his angels to protect him, but he didn't at the time when he cut that man, just Peter cut the man's ear off. Because again, the timing, you have to know, you have to let God decide the timing. You can't force it, you can't change it. Engaging activities to try to hasten things is going to be met with nothing, as everybody should be aware of that. It's in God's timing, not ours. That's strength with purpose to understand when you have to fight and when you don't fight.